Hi everybody, this is Avrohom Czapnik from the Jewish Learning Exchange. This week's Torah portion is Parshat Tetzaveh. In Parshat Tetzaveh, most of the portion is dealing with the unique garments that the Kohanim, the priests, wore in their service in the Mishkan, the Tabernacle, and later on in the Beis Hamikdash and the Temple. Especially the 8 special garments for the Kohen Gadol, the high priest. Now these 8 garments were very unique and had tremendous spiritual and mystical powers that had an impact on the entire world. Different garments acted as an atonement for different sins that the Jewish people had done. But what about our clothing? You know, people say, I've been shopping all my life, I still have nothing to wear. Well, what is the deeper Jewish view of clothing as opposed to what society has? Well, society has an interesting way of looking at clothing. On one hand, people look at clothing, they see someone very well dressed, their esteem of them is raised, so much so that a person I read about was able to make a very good living being a con man, dressed very sharply, and my wallet was just stolen, can you give me money? And this was his livelihood. He'd go to different office buildings and make a lot of money. On the other hand, you have people on the red carpet by openings of movies and shows, and the more outlandish and the more revealing, that's what gets the pictures being taken. Also, it's very interesting that there's a very great inconsistency in how people should be dressed. A cocktail party, people dress a certain way. You don't dress that way to go to work. But Judaism has a very different view of clothing. Clothing really has an impact on who we are and what we represent. Firstly, our clothing should be neat and clean, so that we understand that we are representing the Jewish people, and therefore we have to look neat and clean. Second of all, the concept of tznius, of modesty. The concept of modesty is that our parts of our body are covered so people don't look at us, and we don't look at ourselves as just being a body, but there was something deeper and something more elevated. And by dressing in a modest way, that teaches us that lesson and hopefully reflects to other people as well. Not the same. I'm not just my body parts, but I'm actually something much holier and much deeper and much more elevated. So please don't look at me that way. Thirdly, I once had a woman complain to me once. She said, I'm growing in my Judaism and I understand that the Torah and the mitzvahs are true, but I don't understand. Many religious Jewish men dress very conservatively in dark colors. Why is that? And the Almighty gave me a great idea in my head, and I said, well, look at what you're wearing. You're wearing a black and white top, black skirt, and black stockings and shoes. And she stammered and said, well, that's different. That's an outfit. It's a uniform. And I said, you got it. That's exactly it. We dress this way because it's like a uniform. We identify as being Orthodox Jews that try to dress in a certain manner. So it's like a uniform. There's one garment, though, that is quite different, and that is tachrichim, shrouds, what a Jewish man or woman are buried in. And what's unique about them is that they have no pockets. And that's to teach us a very important lesson. The important lesson is that we cannot take anything along. We can't take our money, we can't take our credit cards, we can't take our jewelry, we can't take our toys. The only thing we can take along are spiritual things. That we can take along with us. And that's why there are no pockets, to remind us of this important lesson. So our clothing is more than just a reflection of what others see, but our clothing needs to have an impact not just on the external, but more importantly on the internal, on how we view ourselves and how we can elevate ourselves. And just as the Kohanim, the priests, wore those special garments to have a spiritual impact on them and on the entire world, how we dress does make a difference, an important difference in our lives, and can make a difference in how we think about ourselves and how others think about us. Interesting story about a woman who was the food critic for restaurants in the LA Times, and she was hired by the New York Times. And it was a fascinating book that I read many years ago that talked about her coming to the restaurants in New York, but they knew about her. And they had her picture hanging there, and she never got an honest assessment of what the restaurant was like, because she was treated very well, because they did their homework. They knew she was coming to interview them. When they saw her walk in, they saw her picture. So she disguised herself and to see how she was treated. And lo and behold, she got the honest answers, but eventually she quit. Why? Because she felt that she was becoming the disguise. She wasn't being herself. And the Torah teaches us just the opposite, that that's what our job is, to be our true selves. With the exception maybe of the holiday of Purim that's coming up soon, people dress up for fun, and they dress up on a deeper reason that things don't appear to be what they really are. And God really is in control even when He's hidden. But for us, we should realize that our clothing should be a reflection not only of our values, but also to impact our values, to live at a higher plane and a deeper level with a greater connection to God. Have a wonderful Shabbat and a very happy and wonderful Purim as well. Take care. All the best.